Welcome, everyone, to, I need to check my date here. I say January 2020. I forgot to say it's 2021. Welcome, everyone. As Claire and I were saying before the call started, it's been an exciting year, and it's just getting started. So glad you could all be here, whether you're here in person with us or if you are on recording, watching it later. In the chat window, I've already posted a bit of an intro here, but we'd love to have you tell us what kind of work you do. You don't have to be an IT pro. We welcome everyone, but it's great to get to know and try to find people who do the same kind of thing that you do. If you'd like to post your social information, it's great. We can find each other on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever you live. And also just generically, general area where you live, you might be able to find someone when we're done with lockdown who you could get together with in person. Wow. Isn't that a lovely thought? And if you're going to go to any events, I threw in the chat window there. I'm going to be going to a class on Saturday. It's an hour-long lecture on Unity for virtual reality development, and it's free. So, if you want to join me there, I'd love to have some other people join me and hang out. I've been doing some really cool stuff with virtual reality, and I can talk more about that when we have our next meetup in the end of January. I'll show that date in a minute here. But definitely take the time to get to know other people in that chat window. Next slide. There we go. So as we go, feel free to type your questions in the chat window. We'll stop periodically to take your questions. I'll kind of summarize them, or we may say, hey, just come off mute because it's going to be easier to talk that way. And we also have a discussion group in LinkedIn. So we really welcome you to hop in there, say hi, and, talk about things that are going on for you as a woman in tech, as a woman in IT pro. Upcoming calls. The Europe series has moved, so they're doing all podcasts. So they're on our YouTube channel, and I put the bit.ly link in there. Definitely find us, including the recording for this call will be posted there, and our previous, a bunch of our previous calls. I still need to get some of our older calls over from the previous site where we had them and get them all in our YouTube channel. Our next event is going to be in the US, January 22nd. We're going to do it at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So, hopefully lunchtime, easier for you to get to. And we will be in AltSpace VR. You don't need a headset. And the link is there if you want to join us for that. And then I can also talk at that session a little bit more about some of the exploration I've been doing in virtual reality and some of the really cool ways you might be able to use it to create community. The Asia Pacific or Asia Pacific Japan group is meeting. It would be January 28th at noon in Sydney time, which translates to January 27th at 5 o'clock for us. Love that dateline. And then in February, we're moving to the second Fridays for our speaker calls. So we're going to have the WIT Regatta group come and talk to us. Melody Beringer, who runs WIT Regatta, is going to come and do what she calls her Connection Cafe. So it's actually not even going to be so much of a speaker. We'll have a little bit of a conversation, and then we're going to break up into focus groups and talk for a little bit, and then we're going to come back and talk together. It's a really great format. I've been to a lot of their events online, and it's very engaging. Great way to meet people. And then we also have our March and April calls already slated. And I know the APAC calls have got their first 6 months nailed down as well. So we're moving on there. We do have a survey, and I'll post the link in the chat window, but we'd love to hear what you think about this call and give us ideas for future calls at the end. One last thing before we start our topic. This is an open source grassroots initiative. I encourage you to bring other women together under the WomenITpros hashtag. Even though I work for Microsoft, and right now it happens that all of the other organizers work for Microsoft, you don't have to work for Microsoft to do a WomenITpros event. Just tell us, we'll help you do it. And, we've invited Claire here to express her beliefs. They don't necessarily express my beliefs or the beliefs of Microsoft or any other organization here other than, Claire speaking for her organization. And Claire, we are so thrilled to have you here today. Claire is the founder of Ladies Get Paid. So a global community, and I love how she phrases it, that champions the professional and financial advancement of women. I got a chance to go to their conference that they did last year. And it wasn't just about salary negotiations, although there is definitely that information there, and it is great. But it's also about things like financial literacy. How do you be an advocate for yourself financially in many different ways? And I think that is such a great, powerful message. So, this call is open to everyone. It's not just a Microsoft thing. If you're on the call, go grab women who you know who might want to be able to jump onto this now. And if they can't get to it now, make sure they get the recording link or the link to our YouTube channel so they can catch this later. So Claire is both an educator and an author, and her book is coming out on Tuesday. I am super excited for this book. And I realized this reading her bio, she is one of Entrepreneur Magazine's 100 most powerful women. So that financial stuff, man, there is power there. And we've got some links, and I'll put those in the chat window as well. But with that, Claire, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to you. And you can give a welcome, start sharing, however you'd like to jump into this. But thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. Then you're almost as excited as I am about this book coming out on Tuesday. So, it's happening, and I'm honored to be here. Let's go ahead and share my screen. Okay. I practiced before, but fingers crossed this actually works for me. Chrome tab. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to have you tell me, can you see this in full screen? That is the question. Full screen. Good. Okay, great. So there are different sections to this conversation, and I really encourage all of you, put your questions in as I'm speaking, but don't worry that I'm ignoring you, even though I sort of am ignoring you for a minute. I will stop in these different sections and take a look at what you're saying, although towards the end, that's when we'll really have a conversation. There's also a lot to cover. I teach multiple classes that are within this class. This is really more of an overview, because guess what? Finding your power, showing up with presence and confidence, there's a lot there. You know who I am. Go check out John Hancock's podcast, Friends Who Talk About Money. I'm the host. So that's a whole other thing that you can look up after this, besides Ladies Get Paid. Quick overview for today. So before we can get to a place where we can self-advocate, you have to deeply believe that you are worthy of advocacy, right? So the question then becomes, well, what might be stopping you? So we're going to talk about some internal obstacles, identifying them, undoing them, working through them. That's a lifelong journey, but I think I'll be giving you some good tips. Then when you're getting to a place where you're ready to articulate your accomplishments, well, hold on, do you know what they are? Okay. And can you tell a compelling story about why you're excellent? That is part of finding your power. That is part of presenting yourself as somebody who is going to get the promotion, which you all will. But you don't just get it on your own. You get it because other people believe in you. Other people advocate on your behalf, right? And that's finding people beyond a quote mentor. Everybody talks about wanting this mentor. There's lots of other kinds of people who can help you in different ways, both inside your company and outside. So we're going to talk about kind of internal networking. How do you do that? And then the last part here, is gaining visibility, really. And that's how you're going to get rewarded, is you first have to be recognized. Number 5, protecting yourself. I'm not going to cover that. That was a mistake. That was for another presentation. So there you go. We're going to talk about perfectionism in just a minute. And I have to let go of my own perfectionism, because that shouldn't have been on here. So first of all, what does power mean to you? I wish we were in person, because I'd have you just speak it out loud, write it down. But for purposes of our mute button, I'm just going to have you think about it. You can put it in the chat.
Yeah,
it's not just and it's not just what does power mean to you, but when you shut your eyes, right? How do you visualize power? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What comes to your mind instantly? Like, I find instinct very interesting. If it's a white man, okay, well, that might make a little more sense, because the people who are in positions of power tend to be them. And that's where I think this becomes a very interesting conversation about, well, why and how? Why do you think that you see power in a certain way? Okay. This is a larger conversation, but I want you to start it with yourself. By the way, with Ladies Get Paid, the reason I started it was because I was so disturbed and angry, quite frankly, about statistics like the wage gap, the leadership gap, the investment gap, the funding gap, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the thing. I want women to gain power. I want them to gain money. I want them to become, get in the C-suite. That is not right for everybody. That's why I want you to really think about what it means to you, because power could be learning to say no, drawing boundaries, right? Doing what you love, working less. I don't know, right? So this is for you, and everything I talk about today is sort of a framework for how to approach power in your definition. Please raise your hand, whether metaphorically or in the chat. Does any of this sound similar or familiar to you? So do you dismiss your success ever as a result of luck or timing? Do you tend to downplay your achievements, discounting praise, right? So I'm talking about, hey, you did a great job, Kathy. And Kathy goes, I mean, she wouldn't do this, but Kathy would go, oh no, it was the team, right? No, it was still you. It was still you. Or I love what you're wearing. And your immediate response is, oh, this old thing, or oh, I got this on sale, or which is fine. But I do want to challenge you and say, why not just say thank you? Why not say, I did work hard. I did do a great job, right? What is this discomfort with sort of sitting with praise? Crumbling when you receive negative feedback. So let's say you did everything well, it was a huge success. Oh, but there was one thing you would have done differently, or one thing that didn't go well. Okay. Do you then forget all of the good stuff? By the way, I don't know if this is not resonating with you, it resonates with me because I created this class for myself. First and foremost, I have gone through all of these things. Part of this is obsessing over mistakes, right? And I don't want to just say mistakes. I actually want to say perceived mistakes, because oftentimes we think that we messed up when in fact nobody else did, right? We're just really hard on ourselves. People pleasing, right? To the point of where you're now maybe contorting yourself into what you think somebody else needs you to be. This is where we get burnt out, by the way. This is depressing. By the way, it will get more positive and I will teach you what to actually do. But first, I want us to really just make sure that we have the strong foundation of that deep belief so that we can self-advocate in a strong way. All of that stuff that I just mentioned, these are things that lead into something called imposter syndrome. Is this something, who doesn't know what this is? Which either means you don't have it, though you probably do, and you just didn't know there was a name for it. So here's the definition. It is the belief that you are not as good or as smart or as competent as maybe you've presented yourself to be. And then there's this fear that people will find out. I thought this cartoon does an excellent job describing it. Says all of these people really seem to have it together and I still have no idea what's going on. And here's the joke. All of them are thinking that, but you don't share it because you're afraid that you've oversold yourself somehow. Maya Angelou has this. She says, I've written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out. If you Google imposter syndrome celebrity, there are women on there that will blow your mind. I mean, Michelle Obama has said she's had it. Really, it's just, you know what, maybe don't Google it because it might depress you, or it'll make you feel better because you know that there are other people out there that also feel it. That's the thing, something you'll notice here. She's written 11 books. So success doesn't mean you have less imposter syndrome, right? It's really just about the chasm between how you feel about yourself and how you think other people see you. You can overcome this. Trust me. Trust me, you can. It's going to take work and you're never going to really get over it because this is lifelong, right? We're socialized. Many girls are socialized to feel small, to thank others, feel grateful, right? Be accommodating, be nice. And that's going to make it hard for you to stand up. It can make it hard for you to stand up for yourself or to make decisions for yourself that, quote, could feel selfish or self-promotional. No. So this isn't your fault. If you have any of these feelings, it's not in your head and it's not in your fault. Perfectionism. That's the other thing that might be standing in your way of sort of finding your power and standing up for your power. So here's the issue with perfectionism. It's not about doing the best you can for the sake of doing the best you can. It is doing the best you can because you are afraid that if you do not work to perfectionism, that you will do a bad job. And not only that you are a failure. And it's this black and white thinking, right? There's no room to just be good. You have to either be a massive success or it's a failure. And something that I just want to point out between imposter syndrome and perfectionism, which in my opinion, they're not the same thing, but they're really sort of two sides of the same coin. But the through line to them is that you believe your accomplishments or how other people perceive you, that is an indictment on your identity or on your self-worth. I'll give you a great example for my book. Will I believe that I'm successful if I sell a lot of books? Well, I was worried about that. And then I did a lot of self-talk and therapy. And I recognized I don't have control over how many people buy my book or like my book. So I have to define my success in that I finished the damn thing. Okay. So do you see the difference there, right? Stopping yourself from seeing yourself and your self-worth based on how you think other people see you. And this is lifelong, right? Like I mentioned. The reason this is so important to take time with is that if you do not do that, there are consequences to it. If you don't believe you're worthy of something, right? Oh, I didn't do that good of a job, or it was part of my job, but I don't need a gold star for that. Well, then you downplay your accomplishments and you're probably going to be less likely to be recognized and rewarded, right? So that means less promotions, less money. If you are afraid of, quote, being found out that you're not as good, smart, or competent as you've presented yourself to be, or you're afraid of messing up, so then you keep yourself small, right? You're not going to take as many risks, but then you lose out on opportunities, right? And the company also suffers, by the way. If you don't raise your hand and say, I have an idea for something, that's actually going to hurt the business. It's going to hurt your colleagues who maybe could have participated in your idea. Also, the way that we, when we're so agitated and anxious with our imposter syndrome and our perfectionism, it absolutely affects the people around us, right? Think about how that might be impacting your team or your partner, right? You people please, right? That might lead to difficulty setting boundaries, and that can then lead to resentment and burnout. And then, of course, all of this, you just don't feel great. Now we're getting to the positive part. You're all listening to this going, well, thanks, Claire. If I wanted to be reminded all of this, I would have just gone to a therapist. I just want to acknowledge all of it, because if we don't set this deep foundation of self-belief, I'm telling you, you're not going to stand up strong when it is time to advocate for your raise, promotion, or whatever your next opportunity is. So what can we actually do? All right, well, first, validate it. When you have any of these feelings, I don't want you to do what I call judging the judgment, okay? Don't say, this is just in your head. You're being silly or stupid, or I can't believe you're still feeling this way. Piling on, judging the judgment is just going to make this worse. So just accept it, validate it. This is where I'm at. This is a journey of understanding who I am, and this is part of it. Then I want us to get really objective, because this is stuff that is sort of swirling around in our mind and in our emotions. How do we get as objective as possible? And that starts with almost treating yourself like a little, like a social experiment here. The last 2 weeks, or maybe even more than that, the next 2 weeks or even more than that, I want you to commit to writing down every time you have any of those feelings that I mentioned, right? Any of this or more. You're in a meeting. You don't want to speak up because you're afraid of looking stupid, right? Write down where it was, what happened, who is there. Because when you start to do that, well, first of all, it's the act of taking something out of your head and just putting it on paper, right? There's a sort of immediate perspective that happens. You're now going to be able to see patterns. And it's very interesting. Once you start to see patterns, you can figure out, here's what I do. For example, in my book, Reese, she's going through imposter syndrome at her company. She starts to track whenever she has these feelings come up, and she recognizes that, yes, she has imposter syndrome, but actually she's in a company culture, she's in an environment that's really exasperating the imposter syndrome, particularly her boss, makes her feel less than, makes her question herself. So what she has had to realize, and this is what I urge you to do as you track it, you can then break it down and say, how do I handle each of these scenarios one by one? Yes, there's the general therapy, learning to love yourself work, but there's also the practical. In this meeting, when I am afraid to speak up, how will I get over that? And I'm actually going to talk specifically about that in another slide. That means having a plan before it happens. So don't wait until you're in the moment feeling nervous or like you're less than. Knowing that this is something that may come up for you, what are you going to do? I have a suggestion, something that's worked really well for me. Let me show you. That has worked well for me. I found a picture of myself when I was a little kid. I look completely ridiculous. Please find the cutest picture or the funniest picture of yourself as a kid. Anytime that I had negative self-talk or self-doubt, I would take out this picture on my phone and I would force myself to say it out loud to this picture. You better believe I stopped saying that. I don't want to treat her like this. Sometimes people can say, imagine yourself as a friend, right? How would you counsel your friend? I like looking at a picture of myself when I was little because it reminds me that I am still that person. There's just a lot of crap and a lot of life that has just been added on top of me. But this is still me, and she's precious. So say it out loud. You're going to stop saying it. I guarantee it, right? A mantra. For example, when I was writing my book and I really suffered from imposter syndrome and perfectionism, obviously I'd never written a book before. It makes sense. I was paralyzed. I couldn't write. I got a Post-it note and I wrote, write like crap, put it on my computer, and it showed me, you know what, you just got to get it out. And that the magic comes in the editing and that things will never really be finished. And it helped me. But I learned that I needed to do that. So my question to you, my challenge right now is start thinking about, if you have any of these feelings that I was talking about before, what is something that you can have that's tangible, maybe physical too, right? That's going to remind you, this is your imposter syndrome speaking, this is perfectionism, and it is not serving you. I also would love you to do what I call a brag book. This is going into your inbox or reflecting on the past few years. Go take a screenshot or write down anything that somebody told you that gave you great feedback or something you did that you're proud of. Put it in a folder on your desktop or put it in one place. It's going to do two really great things for you. One, actually three. First thing is going to make you feel good. Okay. Second, it's actually going to show you things that you're excellent at that you may not even have been realized because we're so much harder on ourselves. And when you realize the things that you're excellent at, right, and your strengths, then you should lean into them. You should do more things that use those strengths. And the third thing that's going to be helpful for is when it's time to, lobby for promotion or a raise, or you're looking to get another job, you're going to take your brag book. You are going to use a couple of things in there, almost like testimonials. So don't just believe me that I'm excellent at this. Kathy said I was excellent. Okay. Then do experiments in vulnerability. I did not make that up. That actually came from Reese, this woman in my book, which, by the way, I profile real women in the book. Each of them is going through a different professional challenge. And then as I tell their story, I stop and I give some advice. So I might keep referring back to Reese. She said to herself, okay, experiments in vulnerability. Because my perfectionism and my imposter syndrome are holding me back from taking risks. And part of that was being vulnerable with people, being herself. She challenged herself. What would it mean to have an experiment in vulnerability? For her, it was definitely speaking up in meetings. So she challenged herself. Every meeting she was going to speak up. Okay, so what's the challenge you're going to give for yourself? Then reward yourself. I don't want to make it sound like I'm calling ourselves, dogs here, but what do you do when you're training a dog, right? Positive reinforcement. You get a treat. So I want you to figure out in your journey of that self-love, self-belief, self-advocacy, how are you going to stop and feel good about yourself? Right. So I have to celebrate just finishing my book. I can't say, well, when the book sells, that's when I'm going to feel proud, or that's when I'm going to throw a party. No, break it down, find smaller ways, smaller milestones where you can say, this is a way I'm rewarding myself. And for me, that's definitely dessert. And then the last thing here is shifting your mindset. And I'm talking about imposter syndrome and perfectionism. Both are so related to the final outcome, right? How did it finish? How did somebody perceive it? Let's think about two things. The why you're doing this. Who are you doing this for, right? What's the purpose of this work? I'm writing this for people to help people. Okay, that kept me going. I'm doing this job. It could be thinking about the end customer. It could be about yourself. I'm doing this to learn, because that's really the best you can ask of yourself. Am I learning? Am I growing? At the end of the day, that is a success in of itself. It's also shifting your mindset to embrace the process and the progress instead of the perfection. So am I doing this more efficiently than I did last time? Right? So figuring out what are different sort of barometers and definitions of success that actually have nothing to do with the final outcome. And then reframing what motivates you as well. This is specific to perfectionism. I have found this when I've done this in my life, has been just a total game changer. First, start with how you think it's helping you. I don't think we do things unless we believe that they are somehow serving us. Right? That's just like survival of the fittest here, right? The fire, you're cooking and there's fire and you're going to jump back, right? Like biologically, your body says, I don't want you to get burned, right? Well, what does perfectionism mean for that? Your body, your instinct doesn't want you to be rejected. They don't want you to be judged. You don't want to be hurt, right? Okay. So instead, you are overworking. You're overcommitting. You're mad at yourself because you think it's a way to make yourself do better. This is all in service of protecting you. So I do first want you to acknowledge, okay, well, how do you think it's actually helping you? And Kate is a woman I profile in the book. This is her list. I did this exercise with her, and she said that she thought that perfectionism was helping her be more detail-oriented. She thought it was motivating her to get a lot done. And then in doing that, it would allow her then to accomplish really big things. And for her, that really translated into being impressive. That was important. Then the next question, though, is, well, what are you afraid you'll lose if you do not have perfectionism? Well, it was kind of the flip side of these things, right? So if detail-oriented, if that's how it's helping her, well, she was afraid that if she wasn't a perfectionist, she would let things fall through the cracks. She'd be lazy without it. She wouldn't reach her goals. Be mediocre. I've heard that from actually a number of women in the Ladies Get Paid community, that it's not so much the fear of failure as it is the fear of being just okay, which I thought was very interesting. Now, here's the real question. How do you think your perfectionism is not serving you? How do you feel like it's hurting you? Because it is, because you're here and you're here because you probably want to hear lots of things from me. But if you were taking my perfectionism class, you would show up because it's somehow not serving you. So for her, it was being anxious all the time. She was fighting with her husband, obviously exhausted, burnt out, all of these things. Here's what I said to her and what I'm saying to you. Is it worth it? Do a cost-benefit analysis. Do you truly, truly believe that without perfectionism, these things will happen? Do you think that, yes, you're detail-oriented, you get a lot done, etc., but you're also anxious, you fight with your partner, exhausted, burnt out? Well, then that's the cost-benefit analysis. Is it actually worth it? I think what we all need to do is just trust ourselves a little bit more. Trust that we've got it, which you do. I know you've got it. A time when the imposter syndrome and the perfectionism come up, where we start to feel, our power is threatened, right? That's when we, quote, mess up. Because it's all good and fine to psych yourself up and be prepared, but what are we actually preparing for? We're preparing for those moments where we feel like, oh no, I've let myself down, I've let other people down. Then you give up your power. So what do you do? Okay, first, thank yourself. Remember, that's like validating here. You're trying your best. You're not a mind reader. Let me give you an example, which again, recovering perfectionist imposter syndrome person here. I gave a talk in Minneapolis a while ago, and it was an interactive talk. It was actually a town hall for women to talk about money, and nobody really spoke up. It was absolutely silent. People didn't really smile. And to me, that's my definition of success, is if people interact. So I walked away thinking that went horribly. And then I did what people with imposter syndrome do, which is I then said, then I'm bad at this. And then I went, I shouldn't even be doing this. I shouldn't even be running Ladies Get Paid. I really took it to the next level. Then later that night, I got an email from somebody saying, this was the best event I've ever been to. It changed my life or something. And I'm looking at it going, could you have smiled? Could I have any feedback from you? And I ended up talking to a friend who's from Minneapolis. And if anybody is from there, jump in and tell me. And she said, oh, Claire, it's cultural. What do you mean it's cultural? She said, people in Minneapolis are very quiet. It comes from, I guess it was Dutch settlement, and she had this whole thing about how it was a European culture and that people, it's very passive, aggressive. And, that was just her opinion. But it made me realize, wow, I thought I knew how people perceived me. I actually had no idea. So give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Then I want you to protect your identity. So anytime that you were making this grand sweeping statement about yourself, like I did, right? I am not good at this. I wish I'd replace the word am with feel. I feel like I'm not good at this. Because that's what this is. This is a feeling. Then I want you to check your language anytime that you use the words should, could, must, have to, always, never. I should have done this. I could have done this, etc. There's an issue with these words. Anybody know what the issue is? They're in the past or the future. I should have done this, could have done this, got the future. I must do this moving forward. I have to, always, never. The issue with when you speak about the past or the future is that you're not living in it, because you're living in the present. So the real question that you should be asking yourself, or sort of statements that you should be making, are about what am I going to do now, right? And is this thought process helping me accomplish anything right now? Is this helping me problem solve or plan effectively? Is there anything I can even do about this problem right now? And part of this can be, is there more information that I need? Okay. I'm going to stop now because that was my first section. If there are any questions or thoughts, I am taking a look. I'm so glad that people are, oh, good. Yes. Jen says, I'm originally from Minneapolis and passive aggressive is basically part of our DNA. Okay, good. It was just one person who told me that, so I don't want to make any judgments, but it did show me, wow, I have no idea what people actually think. Loving.
Lots of enthusiastic statements, lots of great conversation going, lots of people saying yes, imposter syndrome. There was one question, which is the book available in digital format? And yes, right, we said yes. It is on Kindle, so.
Yes, Kindle and then audio, because I spent 10 hours reading it. So
audio with you, awesome.
Yeah, so if you're not too annoyed by my voice, then I encourage you to, I do dramatic readings. So there you go. And thanks, Kathy, for reading out, the questions as you see it. I will stop along the way, but it is helpful for you to be taking a look. So thank you for that.
Yeah. But so far, wild applause.
Yes. By the way, this is what I'm going to, stop using myself so much as a guinea pig here, but I used to be extremely, extremely nervous in going into presentations because I would keep thinking about the audience. Does the audience like me? Am I helping the audience? Are they learning? The person who hired me, are they happy with their decision? That was driving me nuts and it was making me really anxious. And then I realized this is actually not about them, because at the end of the day, they may know this stuff already. So you might be listening going, I know this. Okay. You might not like my style. Okay. So the focus needed to be, when I go in here, I do two things. I go, what am I going to learn from this experience? So how am I going to improve this the next time? And then the other thing I do is I focus on one word that I want to channel. Is it, and by word, I mean expression, right? Do I want to be in the moment? Do I want to speak calmly and clearly? Do I want to have more energy, right? So it's like really shift the focus to something else that is about you and your self-improvement. Knowing your strengths. Let's talk about that. If you are somebody who is hard on yourself, which many women are, especially if you are a perfectionist, well, we really need to start tracking them, to be honest. I mean, if you're waiting until it's annual review to talk about yourself, I mean, you're just not going to remember. So all along the year, anytime you do something, certainly that you're proud of or excited about, write it down. I would look at obstacles, challenges, things that are hard. Anytime you took initiative, right? Anything that was self-motivated, when you go above and beyond, great way to figure out your accomplishments is to look up the original job description. And I'm talking about your current job, or this, could be your last job or whatever. Look at the original job description when you were hired. And then I would love you to write a new job description based on what you actually did. You will probably see an enormous scope change. I have no doubt that you took on the roles of multiple people. You're also going to see, your growth. And that's a place you want to really focus on, is how you've grown and learned and progressed. Always through the filter of what you're actually proud of and excited about. I'm just moving ahead and thinking, well, if this is time for you to, make the pitch for a promotion, if you talk about things that you did that were excellent, but you actually didn't really like doing, don't bring it up. You know why? Because you're effectively saying to the other person, hey, I want to do more of this, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to go, oh, she was great at that. Now I want to give her that role or more of that kind of task, right? So it really needs to be the things that you indicate the direction you want to go moving forward. And no, it is not just, well, I had to do this for my job. No, these are accomplishments. All of these are accomplishments. Superpowers. I also want you to think not just about the things that you've done, but kind of who you are, what how you did it, because you are also being hired and rewarded for your contribution to a team. Right? And if you were just doing an output, then you're a computer program. You had to actually bring your whole self to work as you did things. So are you an enthusiastic person? Positive, the ability to lead, detail-oriented. Are you a team builder, patient, empathetic? Have you worked there for a while, right? Do you have institutional knowledge? There are so many bullet points I could have put on here, but I'm going to stop saying could, because I said let's not use those words. Throw it in the chat. What are things that you could say about yourself that describe almost like, it's really more like emotional intelligence, really. It's important to know these things because they are indicators of what you should be doing. I mentioned that before in terms of kind of knowing your strengths. You want to have a role, a job in which you lean into those strengths. So it's not just I have a lot of enthusiasm or I'm a great networker and it's just a nice to have. I want you to do something for a living that capitalizes, that leverages those things, because you will be phenomenal at that. Now you're probably thinking, well, it's good to know this. Now I feel better about myself. What do I actually do with this? When it is time to make the case for something you want, whether, again, it's a promotion or a raise, show the impact of this. So my enthusiasm, I'm the cheerleader of the team. And as the cheerleader of the team, I've seen that it's really kept folks motivated. They're more dedicated. That means they work faster. They're more productive, efficient. That saves time, and time is money, right? So you can kind of make this stuff up. I mean, it's not like you're actually making it up, but I think you could, you're smart enough and creative enough to be able to take what you do and how it impacts others and then tie it to the bottom line in some way. So a question for you all, and I'm happy to give you my presentation afterwards. I'll email it to Kathy and then she can forward it along. But, what feels effortless? How do you make other people feel? And then who can help you figure this out? These are 3 really great prompts to know what those superpowers are. And again, this is important stuff to know about yourself. Then you want to be able to articulate it, right? So this is when I think oftentimes we feel like you're bragging. Trust me, you're not. You were socialized to feel like you should not brag. Tell the story. So this is it's called the STAR method. I did not make it up, but I don't know who did. So you can give me credit. It's fine. STAR, that's the acronym. So S is setting the seed, T is task, A is action, and then the R is the result. You're going to give some background. So take an accomplishment in your head, something that you've done that you are proud of. I want you to give us context. Who, what, when, where, why. Most importantly, what was at stake? There is always something at stake. If you're feeling like you're a little stuck here, I would encourage you to sort of imagine yourself like you're in a movie. You're the main character. We root for the main character. And write this out, because when you just speak it out loud, you're probably going to miss some details that are important. When you write it out, make it dramatic, and then you're going to have somebody help you edit it. What did you do? That's the task, of course. The action, not just what you did, but I'm also curious to learn how did you do it? Because when you tell the story, that's going to demonstrate how you operate, right? Are you a fast learner, resourceful, efficient, creative? All of these things count. And then, of course, the result, which I mentioned before, right? It's really actually about sort of the impact of your work and then quantifying it as much as you can. And if you can't show exactly how you might have brought in money for the company, I do think being able to demonstrate efficiency with time and resources, that goes a long way. Quantifying could be, this is the budget I worked with. These are the number of people that I trained or supervised, right? And there's also, what did you learn? What did you learn about yourself or the company or the industry? All of this is important, and don't take time with this. If any of it feels like you're confused, you don't know what the impact is, then this is, time to talk to your manager or to somebody else. Don't feel like it's going to make you look like you don't know what you're doing. It's just saying, I want to become a leader here. I want to make sure I'm, maximizing my contribution, and ask about how the company operates. How does the company make money? Do you know? Right? Do you know what your role is in the ecosystem of the company and how it makes money? If you don't know, then that's an issue. So put yourself in the shoes, almost as if you're running the company, right? And knowing the value that you provide, which you absolutely do. And if you can get that language from your manager, you can use that in your pitch when it's time to advocate for yourself. Speaking of advocates, before I go into this section, I would love to stop and ask you to ask me questions for anything that has to do with sort of knowing and articulating your strengths, your skills, and all of that good stuff.
I haven't seen anything in the chat window, but if anyone wants to throw something in or pop off mute and ask a question, that's
Tammy, I love this. You got resilient as a tattoo. Such a good word. I really love that word. And I love that you put it in a place where you see it every day. Love it. Good. Awesome. Okay. And by the way, guys, I think women in particular, but many of us equate hard work with work. Things don't always have to be so hard. They should be challenging. They should be inspiring, make you think and make you grow. But if something is just so hard, that maybe is an indicator that it's not actually the right fit for you. So do keep that in mind and trust your instinct. Finding advocates. This is super, super, super important. So remember in the beginning, I said, let's like get off this mentor pedestal here. It's just one person who's part of what I call a personal board of advisors. Mentors, let's define it quickly. So for me, a mentor is somebody who can just sort of share wisdom with you, life and career wisdom. They don't necessarily have to be in your department or on your career path. One of my mentors is a man. First of all, he's a bad older man and he's in real estate. So really has nothing to do with what I do, but he's somebody who's challenged me throughout my career, but particularly in the beginning, to really think outside the box when it came to defining success. That was mentorship. Then there's a coach. This is somebody who has done what you do. They are able to sort of help you build your skills, give you advice on how to handle something. Then this is a guide. And by the way, your mentor could be in your company. They don't have to be. Your coach could be in your company. They don't have to be. Guides should probably be in your company. And this is somebody who can give you intel about the company, how the company operates. Like by the time that it's your review, it's probably too late to ask for a raise, actually, because budgets were decided months earlier. So a guide is a person who can tell you when are budgets discussed, because it's at that time that you should be having the conversation about your work, your contribution, right? And asking for the raise. So is that an executive assistant? Is that HR? Is that the person who's been at the company for a long time? Sponsors. Okay, sponsors and managers are probably the most important people you need to be cultivating relationships with to really kind of like step into your power. Sponsor is a person who has influence at the company. And yes, this is a person who works at your company. It could also not be, but you definitely need to be forming a relationship with the sponsor at your company. They have influence. They are invited into rooms that you are not invited into, right? They are somebody, if they were to advocate on your behalf, that would go a long way, right? They've got the currency. How do you develop a relationship with this person if they're maybe a lot higher than you? You email them and you do research about them and you say, here's what I learned about you. I really am curious, I saw this interview that you did, or I saw that you pivoted your role, and then ask them just one question, or ask them 3 questions in a bullet point and say, I imagine you have very limited time. Do you have 20 minutes to spare, or we could do this by email? So what I'm basically saying to you is you want to make the outreach extremely personal, extremely clear and specific, and give them an out. Okay. So it's not, I want to pick your brain, because that's too abstract. Don't take it personally if they say no, if timing is everything. So they may not be able to do it now. If you don't hear back, be politely persistent. You can absolutely email them 2 more times, just spread it out and say, I completely understand if you can't get back, but I had to shoot my shot. Somebody will respond to you. And by the way, ask how you can support them. Always, always, always. What can I do to help you? It's to their benefit to know folks who are, a little bit lower, because they have to know how the company is also operating. They might be so high up. Also, you may end up working with them, and it's good for them to start developing a relationship with you now. Keep them updated too, by the way. So if you're able to connect with them once, that's not a relationship, right? A relationship is built over time with consistent connection. So a way to stay in touch, if you need to set an alarm for yourself every quarter or whatever it is to reach out, do it. What you're going to do is you're going to send them an article that you found that made you think of them. Oh, this is based on a conversation we had, or I thought this might interest you. Maybe you see that there's a conference you think they should be a speaker at. Hey, thought you should speak here. I can submit your name, right? To demonstrate that you're thinking of them, right? And then PS, and you give one of your updates. Or PS, here's how something you said to me motivated me or taught me to do this thing. Your manager is the other extremely important person that you need to get on your side. They're the ones who basically dictate your working life, right? Based on the projects they give you. That can be huge, right? The kind of project that gets recognition. So you have to understand, how do you best communicate with them? I have a whole class on how do you connect with managers in a strategic way, but point being, have a conversation with them that is about getting on the same page. Even if you work with them for a while, I think it is worth revisiting of how do you define success? How do you measure success? What are your expectations? How do I, hit this out of the park for you? How do you prefer to communicate once a week on a call. I mean, now it's all, changed, but the frequency, right? If you have questions, maybe, do they prefer that you send it all of your questions at once at the end of the day or the end of the week, as opposed to as you have them? I mean, it's when we make assumptions about what we think others need from us is when we start to stumble. Whether we are worried about we're going to stumble or we actually do, it's because you haven't talked about getting on the same page. And then your peers. Don't forget your peers. Listen, think about your next job, or in a couple jobs from now, you have no idea where people are going to go in their life. So you want to have connections, and you do it one-on-one. Hey, I'd love to learn more about your career. Don't wait for the happy hour, which we're not having anyway. It's really understanding who the people are that you work with. And the only way to do that is to get to know them. Start demonstrating the behavior that you want to see, which is things like in a meeting, giving people a shout out. I thought Kathy made a great point. Or even telling Kathy's manager, I thought you made a good point, right? That is the goodwill that you want to cultivate for yourself. So do it for others. Same thing with being a mentor or coach or sponsor. Be that for another person. That's part of the manager. We only have 10 more minutes, so I'm going to keep trucking through since I kind of said all this already. But something I found incredibly helpful in my relationship with previous manager, it was having some kind of transparent system where when we talked about things, they were in one place and we could prioritize together, because they would inevitably have 1,000 other ideas that they'd want me to do. And then I would say, well, hold on, based on our conversation before, if I were to do this first, are you comfortable with these other things getting bumped? And we were constantly revisiting kind of deadlines and deliverables. That allowed me to be successful. But it was me showing them, are you sure you want to make this decision? There you go. This is all the stuff that I said before. And amplification. That's so shine theory is about giving somebody a compliment publicly, again, because it's demonstrating the behavior. It's also showing, it's saying to everybody, if Kathy did a great job and you're pointing it out, oh, everybody thinks Kathy did a great job, okay? And then amplification is making sure that people get credit for what they said, okay? It's repeating what they said and giving them credit. It's just bringing attention to them and saying your name publicly is a very profound thing, because women tend to be interrupted more than men, by both men and women, by the way. So this is a way for everybody to slow down and say, let's give this person their due. Meetings are key. I mentioned this before, right? Gaining visibility, right? Demonstrating your power. It can't just be your manager that knows that. It's just not, because the manager isn't the only person who can decide on things like a raise or promotion or budget, if for an initiative you might want. So in a meeting, there's meetings that happen before the meeting. So know who are the gatekeepers in the meeting and maybe have a conversation with them before. Taking up space. If we were in person, I would encourage you to sit in the middle of the table, because that means everybody has to look at you. We don't have that. So use your hands, right? Bring a lot of energy. Know your framing. Don't wait too long to speak up. Otherwise, you're going to psych yourself out, or somebody else is going to say what you were going to say. Obviously, take the temperature of the room. You need to piggyback off of somebody else. It's not a bad way. I want to build off of what so-and-so said, right? Or you can then involve the room. After you say what you have to say, you can go, I'm curious what other people have to say about this. Or you can pose a question to the room. You then, in a way, become the nexus of the conversation. You're almost like the moderator. Introduce yourself. If this is a meeting where not everybody knows you, say who you are, what you do. If somebody interrupts you, you say, hold on 1 second, I'm not done. Or you could say something like, I only got about 75% through what I was going to say. And then, oh, I want to know the last, 25%. Please be careful about the words you use, right? I actually have a question. I just think, why are we not saying I think, or I have a question? I'm no expert in this, but please, please, please never say that again. Does this make sense? Does that make sense? That I used to do that all the time, and it made it seem like that I didn't think it made sense. Like I didn't have confidence in the way that I presented the information. Let them tell you it did not make sense. Obviously, pay attention to filler words. Like anytime that you are somehow like caveating yourself, weakening yourself, apologizing is another one of those. My God, how often in an email is the first line of the email, I'm sorry it took me a day to respond to you. Can you not say it? Or could you replace it? Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your patience. That's like you taking the power back. The last part here before I open it up for questions and conversation is being invaluable. Here are 3 tips that will help you step into your power at work, will position you for a promotion. So first of all, I'm going to actually start with the middle one here. Get the glam work. This is not my term. There's actually called glamour work. This is doing the work that gets you access to potential sponsors, that gets you FaceTime with clients, that gets you to do things that stretch your resume, right? A lot of times men get these roles, get these positions. And a lot of times women and women of color are doing more of the like behind the scenes, supportive admin type work. This is an issue. This is an issue because again, you're going to need to demonstrate that you are powerful. It's harder to do that if you are supporting somebody else. So find opportunities or create opportunities. If you have an idea for something that is going to improve a process or make the company money or help the company culture, right? Creating an employee resource group that brings people together. I mean, find those opportunities and then find other people who will come on board with you and say, let's make a pitch for budget. And I have I could go into a whole thing about how do you ask for stuff that will get them to say yes. And it really is being proactive in already seeing the no that you're going to get. Can you address their concerns? And also being able to show what they're going to get for their money. Basically, how is this going to be a benefit to them, to the bottom line, right? The last part is going where there's growth. I'm going to tell you a really quick story from the book. This woman, Shalmina, she worked at IBM and she was in sales. She was doing a fantastic job. She was rising up in sales and she had a lunch with one of her sponsors and she told her sponsor how well she was doing and she was very proud of herself. And the sponsor said, I think that you should change departments. And she said, well, what? She said, because you're doing hardware sales. Let's look at where IBM is going. This was a while ago. Where's IBM going? They're investing in software sales. So if you continue rising in your department, in your vertical, you're going to hit a wall. You want to go where the company is growing, where the company is investing. Same thing for your career. You want to go where the industries are moving. So she did. She ended up making a transfer to the software department. It was tough for her because there was a learning curve. So a little bit of her pride was hurt. She remembered the time when she used to be really good. Then, of course, she learned and became excellent. And she was this Swiss Army knife. She had experience in multiple departments with different kinds of clients. And that made her a unique candidate in order to get into the C-suite, which she eventually did. I would love to take questions and conversation. I guess before we do that, I do have 3 asks of you. I would love you to check out ladiesgetpaid.com/institute. We have over 60 hours of content. We actually have over 100 now. We do webinars every week on finance and career, and then we put them in the video library. $9 a month, super affordable. You can access all of these classes. This is free, ladiesgetpaid.com/join. That's where you get access to our Slack group. Over 2 million messages have been exchanged since 2016. Women sharing their stories, finding jobs, talking about their salaries. Any question you have about your career and about your bank account, go in there, ask these women, and they are super supportive, and it's incredible to watch, to be honest. And then my book, ladiesgetpaid.com/book. I would be honored if you read it. And I'm not responding to email really these days. My inbox is very frightening. So if you do have a question or a comment or want to keep me posted on your progress and the things that you've learned, Instagram is the best way to do it. So just follow me on Claire Gets Paid. You can DM me. It might take me a couple of days to get back to you, but I promise that I will. And thank you, Kathy, for having me. I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share. We've got a few minutes left here. Throw your questions at me, my friends, and whatever I can answer in the next few minutes, I will answer.
Yeah, feel free to just pop off that mute button if you have a question. Don't try to type it.
Or you can try to type it if you don't want to speak up, and that's fine too.
Well, that's true. Yeah, or if you're not in a place where you can speak up.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question, Kathy. This is Cherry.
Yeah.
So first off, I loved your presentation. Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. When you were mentioning the brag book and going back through some of those messages that people have sent you, so how do you approach that if maybe some of them are older, or how do you even frame it in a sense like, I don't know, it just seems very foreign to me. So I know it's something I need to work on.
So is the question that you not knowing which ones to pull, or if you need to ask people for those kinds of testimonial feedback?
Right. In terms of just approaching it, like if you wanted to put it publicly or something to that nature, how would you word it in that way?
Sure. I mean, so I'm an advocate for everybody to have a personal website, by the way. I mean, it's really a way when people Google you, you can kind of like own your narrative there. You put it, imagine yourself almost like a product. I hate to say it, but why should somebody believe in you and invest in you, right? It's because other people have also said that they believe in you. They've had a good experience. So you could put on a website or even in a cover letter, a quote from somebody. You don't have to use their name. You could say, give a little bit of context maybe to who the client was or what your boss said or your teammate said. Something that's specific to you and the work you did that, Cherokee brought, had great attention to detail, right? Something that they said that demonstrates a thing that you want a person to know about you. And I don't know if you need to ask permission. I mean, it's really just for you to be able to articulate your work. So that's completely up to you. I think go back through you probably have in your mind there was a time that you did get good feedback on something, or whether it was in an email or you remember a conversation you had, and that is the one that you will use. Like it's. I'm not sure if I'm quite answering your question, but
no, you definitely are. I've actually used. I have used that in a cover letter before, so that's perfect and spot on. So just was kind of wondering if you had additional ideas or different ways to approach it, but I really like those too.
Yeah, and I also, for anybody who gets nervous about asking for a raise or things like that, I would imagine if you are a business, which you are, you're the LLC of you, and you're making a pitch for the raise, it's kind of like you're pitching in front of investors. And the reason somebody would give you money is not because it's a favor or because it is charity. It is because they believe that they will get a return on their money. So what you're actually doing is you're saying, here's why you can believe in me, because it is going to benefit you. It is reassuring the other person that they're making the right investment. And to do that, it's showing all the things about you that strengthens your case. I'd love to take maybe one or two more questions.
Along those lines, for, I guess, LinkedIn, because that's how people mostly view each other, it's sort of like your online business card. Is there a way to, if you have these old emails or testimonials of how great your work was, is there a way to scan them or insert photos of those emails or letters?
I would use that as on your personal website. You can just okay. Put the text in but that's, I mean, I love that you asked this question, because for me, the personal website is adding like color to what you have in LinkedIn, right? So even what you put on LinkedIn, you could go see more here, detail. And that's where you really tell the story. You can have, pictures and just like flesh out so people feel like they were there. But I would just copy and paste whatever the one-liner was.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it feels weird, like saying, yo, I did this great thing for you, but it was like 15 years ago. And you're like,
Well, one thing is, and I actually talked about this earlier, I host office hours every Friday on YouTube, and was talking about resumes. If you have any kind of gaps in your resume, or, really anybody, but particularly if you have a kind of gap, is to do a skills-based, it's called skills-based or a functional resume, where you're leading with the categories of things that you do as opposed to dates. I would prefer people to kind of stick in the last 5 to 10 years of what you've done rather than 15. But if you want to get rid of dates, it's really more about here's the kind of work that I've done. And then underneath it, it's the results of that kind of work. So if I'm an event planner, I would just say event planning, and then underneath it, those bullet points, as opposed to saying between this date and this date is when I did this thing. For LinkedIn, doesn't quite work because you do have to put the chronology, but for resumes and for personal websites, you can get outside the box a little bit there with dates.
Gotcha. Thank
you.
You
just mentioned that 15 years ago.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Claire. That was fantastic. Let's go ahead and we'll stop the recording now, but we will hang out for a couple minutes more for networking. If you found somebody who was saying something interesting in the chat window, connect. And if you're watching the recording, come live, because part of this is connecting in the chat window with other amazing people, other Women IT pros, other allies of Women IT pros. So Claire, thank you so much. I hope your book is a raging success. I have my copy. I can't wait to see it on Tuesday. I love when Kindle just kind of plops things into my reading feed there.
Yeah.
So it's like Christmas every day.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kathy, for the opportunity. And for all of you, it's Friday. Thank goodness. Take care of yourself. Please stay safe, stay sane. Sane is important. And stay in touch with me also.
Great. Thank you. And I will put the links in the recording, but also in the chat window for Eventbrite. Watch for our events. That's going to be the best way to find us, and join us January 22nd at 9 a.m. Pacific time in Altspace, or February 12th for our next